So let us focus on community language learning. Now, what is the meaning of community? You should know the meaning of community. What is the meaning of community? Yes, the people living together is a community. Okay,
Yes, sir.
people living in a group and doing everything with the help of each other is a community. So, how can we use the concept of community in language learning? So, that is called community language learning. Please mute. Hello, mute yourself. Okay. What is community language learning? It is in short called CLL. Now, see, CLL is different from CLT. What is the full form of CLT? Yes, it is a method in which students work together, as I told you, the concept of community, to develop what aspects of language they would want to learn. As a community, they decide what they want to do. In the same way, students will decide what aspect of language they want to learn. The teacher is only the counselor. For example, if you are sitting on a computer, you are the client for the computer. So, in the same way, teacher is the human computer and students are the client. Okay. There are other terms used to refer to teacher's role in this method. In addition to counselor, is also called knower, counselor expert, counselor teachers. These are the other words. Within the language teaching tradition, CLL is the sometimes cited as an example of humanistic approach. Now, what is humanistic approach? You are taking the opinion of others. You are giving liberty to others. You are respecting the ability of others. In reference to education, you are respecting the ability of students. You are allowing them, you are giving the choice, you are giving them the liberty to learn. That's why it is called humanistic approach. So, in community language learning, the aim is to involve the learner's whole personality in teaching learning process. It is also called group interest learning. Now, what happens? Students are learning in a group as we continuously remember the word community. So, it is focused on group learning, learning in a group. The main idea of CLL was taken from the psychologist Carl Rogers. He gave the psychological counseling therapy client-centered therapy. Now, who is client in the context of education? Student is client in the context of education. And the therapist means the doctor. Here, teacher is the doctor. So the teacher performs the role of counselor and students are in the role of clients, means the actual who want to learn the language. Now, what is the basic idea of Carl Rogers client-centered therapy? It simply means that it is student-centered learning. Client-centered therapy means student-centered learning. So what happens? Counseling is in one person giving advice, assistance, or support to another who has a problem. Now, in the context of education, teacher is giving advice, assistance, and support to students because students had the problem and aim of learning the language. So CLL draws this concept of counselor and client in classroom. So that's how counselor client relationship is there in the classroom in reference to CLL. So how do students learn? A group of learners sit in a circle, the teacher standing outside the circle. A student whispers a message in the native language. Means he speaks some sentences in native language. Mind well. L1. Then the teacher translate it into the foreign language L2. Now student repeats the message in the foreign language. And the message is recorded in a cassette in a tape using the tape recorder. Now students compose different messages further with the help of the teacher. Teachers continuously translating it. So students reflect about their feelings, their expression. Later on, student will also listen to the recording, and the teacher will give counseling that this is how you should speak. These are the mistakes. This is how you should pronounce the words. Slowly they learn in this way. So if we compare the psychological counseling with the community language learning context, in psychological counseling, there is a client and counselor. They agree for counseling. In CLL, learner and knower means the teacher agree to language learning. Client articulates his or her problem in the language of affect because client will emotionally express his feelings, his problem, and the learner presents to the teacher a message. Here, client is presenting the problem, and here, learner is creating a small message in his native language. Mind well. Counselor listens carefully. Knower means the teacher also listens carefully, and the learner also listening to other learners as well. Counselor restates the client message in the language of cognition, means he understands. The teacher also restates the learner's message, but in language too, in foreign language. The client evaluates the accuracy of the message. Here, teacher also see if the learner has copied, repeated the L2 message properly or not, because he has to listen and copy. See the concept. Client reflects on the interaction of the counseling session. No learner, how learner will reflect? He will listen to the tape recording. Means I told you that in this teaching learning process, everything the language expression will be recorded. So CLL was basically based on the concept of psychological therapy by Rogers. CLL in the language learning field was developed by Charles A. Curran. He was a professor of psychology at Loyola University, Chicago. He came up with the idea to apply the concept of psychotherapy in classrooms. As I told you, the concept was of Carl Rogers. The concept was taken into education. Student and teacher relationship was compared with the client and the therapist, counselor relationship. What was the basic thought behind CLL? David gave the thoughts like language is a behavior of a learner. Language is nothing but a behavior of a learner, and it is directed towards others. It is related to others. Learners can talk about things that make him interested and things that he has been experienced before. Right? Learners can talk about things that he already know. He has the interest. So this is related to learner focused learning. Learner can only learn a new behavior fast if he is not interrupted. So mind well, When the students are repeating the sentences of teacher, he is not interrupted. The tape recorder is recording everything. Now, if you are not interrupted, you can learn the new behavior easily without interference. The counselor should give assistance. Here, teacher gives assistance to students. The counselor should give assistance in maintaining useful behaviors. By giving chance to client to talk means you should give chance to students to talk at least in the class. You should help them talk. You should help them produce sentences. Even though in the first language, teacher is there to translate in second language. The counselor should choose easy material as per the requirement of the clients to explain him, right? So the relationship between the teacher and student is very important in learning a new language, in learning experience. Because new learning experience can be threatening. Student should feel secure when he is speaking new language, right? There should be no interference, no correction. Let it be recorded, and later on, students will listen to it. Student should feel safe before the teacher. Means you see, the client who has psychological problem should feel safe before the therapist, isn't it? So, in the form of student, he should feel safe. His learning should be facilitated. As the therapist is sensitive to the student's level of his knowledge, his confidence, his level of understanding, as the counselor is understanding, sensitive toward the problem of the client. Teacher and students are whole persons. So you should accept the whole personality, right? If you are living in a community, you should accept everyone's personality. That is community language learning. If you are learning in a group, you should accept as he is. Teacher always counsels. He's not advising anything, but he's just listening to them. He's understanding what they are saying. You know, in a psychological therapy, clients will talk more instead of therapists. Right? Therapists will continue listening and understanding the issue. So that is the concept in education. Teachers should listen to students rather than to keep on speaking. Right? So these are the principles behind this CLL. Based on the concept and principles, we can discuss the characteristic features. As I told you, students already know the native language, so they start speaking native language, means the original language. They already know this. So teacher will help them to speak in the other language. Teacher is translating. He is using the translation method here. What will happen? The words the students speak will be recorded. Then they will be replayed, and then discussion will be taken on. Even transcript is also made. Now, what is the meaning of transcript? Do you know what is the meaning of transcript? Hmm? Mhm. No. Translation means bhashantar. What is transcript? Yes, please. Do you know the lyrics of a song? Do you know the
Written.
exact? Yes, is the written form of the dialogue.
Yes, sir.
The interview, if you listen to a Hollywood movie, can you see the transcription be in the low subtitle? We call it subtitle. It is actually the transcription of what is being spoken. So now what happens? Transcript is also prepared of the conversation, right? And native language equivalents are written beneath the target language words. It means that the equivalent translation is also written behind the transcription, so it will help him understand. Now, this is the process. Do you understand the process of community language learning? Do you understand the process?
Yes, sir.
So the transcription of the conversation becomes the text here, textbook, the content to learn for the students, right? Various activities are conducted, for example, examination of a grammar point, working on pronunciation of a particular phrase, creating new sentences with words from transcript that allow students to further explore the language. During the course of the lesson, students are invited to say how they feel. In return, students, teachers understand, right? What is the role of teacher and student? As I told you, teacher's initial role will be as a counselor, means teacher recognizes how threatening a new learning situation is. It can be for adult learners or small learners. He skillfully understands and supports his students in learning the target language. What is the role of the student? Initially, the learners are very dependent on the teacher. Students are speaking, teacher is translating, students are repeating the same sentence. Slowly, students will start producing themselves. Slowly, they will become independent learners. So, what is good thing about CLL? As I told you, the method is student-oriented method. Slowly, it is helping students to become independent users in the classroom and user of language. The atmosphere in the classroom is very healthy atmosphere as the word refers community. Students are learning with cooperation of others, teachers and other students. They will feel self-confident. The students will low self-esteem, will also feel confidence in group. You know, weak students will feel confident while working in group, isn't it? Yes. Have you felt that? Have you felt that? Students learn to hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Have you felt that when you are learning in a group, you feel comfortable, isn't it? If you are very weak or having low self-esteem. So it will also
Yes,
help
sir. Yes.
lower learners' anxiety, right? The students learn to communicate and use the cognitive knowledge from the very beginning in order to practice the rules of target language. They will start formulating individual sentences and utterances with the help of teacher. They will become slowly independent learners when now so initially teacher is helping, but later no, later on if the teacher is not around to guide them, they can also start making sentences in CLL. Students can learn by their own speed. Fast learners may go up and they may help the slow learners because they are learning in a group. This method allows students to have the freedom and initiative as much as they want. So this method is as a unique and fascinating learning experience gives to the students. This method can be applied to learners who are very beginner They just know English. In addition, they know nothing about English yet. So this method can be used in teaching speaking and listening skill. CLL works best with lower level who are struggling to produce spoken English. What are the demerits of the method? In the beginning, when the teacher uses a tape recorder as an audio instrument and the students build their own sentences and utterances, the process can only go well if students already have certain amount of vocabulary, and students should have basic knowledge about the structure. If they don't have the knowledge about structure and the vocabulary, and teacher keeps on translating the student sentences, the presentation will be like a translation presentation and not a spoken English class. So the classroom is process based and not content based. So you will be finding that what is exactly our content is. Where is the textbook? So this method has don't not have proper textbook, proper content. It only indicates the process of learning. The recording process can create difficulties who are not familiar with it. It may waste valuable time in discussing and listening to recording. The new role of the teacher may cause certain feeling of frustration to those who do not get the teacher-student relationship well. Because in traditionally, teacher thought that he is the authorized person in the classroom. Now the role is changing. It may not be comfortable for some teachers. Evaluation is very complicated. How do you evaluate a class who has learned through CLL? So the success of this method depends largely on the translation expertise of the counselor. If he is not able to translate the native language sentences, utterances by the students correctly, thus the method will be incorrectly, the method will be a failure. The mistranslation will not be effective, right? CLL is very demanding for language teachers. How? He must be fluent in L1 and L2. So a teacher of English, for example, should be fluent in Gujarati as well as in English. So it will be a difficult role and very demanding for English teachers. As I discussed, what is the process of CLL? See, here client means student. A group of clients sit in a circle, as I told you. The counselor means the teacher is outside the circle. Those clients first all have to establish interrelationship, interpersonal relationship, trust in the native language, right? They may be very much a beginner in foreign language, for example, a first standard class. One of the client wants to say something to group, but he doesn't know how to say in English. So he will say in Gujarati. So the teacher will translate it into English. So the student will say the same thing to the group in English. The teacher will translate the once again new sentences. These all things will be recorded, and they later on listen to this, and the teacher may counsel them. These are the mistakes you have done. So this is the process. A group of 5 to 10 students should be enough, right? A taping for 20 minutes should be enough. That is the process. Okay. So these are the exercises: tape recording, student conversation, transcription, reflection on experience, reflective listening, human computer, and small group task. So these are the major activities in CLL. As I told you, tape recording means students choose what they want to say, and their target language production is recorded. Whatever they speak in English is recorded. They later on they listen to it. Transcription means teacher produces a transcription of the tape recorded conversation with translation in mother tongue. Right? Exact what students have spoken means you can also read what you have spoken. Transcription is basically to read what you have spoken. Reflection on experience means teacher takes time during or after various activities to allow students to express how they feel about the language, their learning experience. Now, this is related to psychological therapy. Reflective listening means students listen to their own voice and they think, right? Human computer means teacher is the human computer and the client is the student, right? He is actually in the control of the students. So this is how CLL goes on. Okay.